For the start of the Steeplechase final, let's join Steve Crabb.
Thanks, Sue. Well, that debate will continue. I guess there won't be much debate about the likely result of this Steeplechase final. Kenya will start as the favourite in the shape of Abraham Chirono. He's the third best of their trio. They've also got Ezekiel Kemboi, who heads up that start list there, and Stephen Chirono. Kemboi, Stokes, Chirono, Bourgeois, Naylor, Devoren, Christian Stevenson, Ben Whitby, Abraham Chirono. 9 athletes, 3 Kenyans, 3 from England, 2 from Wales, and 1 from Canada. Well, if this isn't the Kenyan 1, 2, 3 here, then I will be surprised. They could probably send 5 or 6 at least athletes who could fill the first 3 places in the steeplechase. So dominant in the world. Of course, though, the top man in the world is Brahim Balami of Morocco, but the Kenyans have been dominant in the championships for so long now. I guess the only real question is, how fast do they want to run here tonight, and who is going to come out on top?
On your marks.
Ezekiel Kemboi is the man who's on the inside. A few might fancy his chances. Stephen Chirono, the Kenyan champion, wears number 693. Well, Kemboi just set off his stopwatch as he crossed over the start line there, so maybe there is a tactic as far as pacing is concerned, and maybe it's his job to take them off at a decent pace.
And maybe he doesn't trust the local timekeepers. He's doing it himself. He does it in training all the time, and he's decided he wants to do it in a race. I want to time myself. Well, you look at this race, and 1966 was the year when Kenya arrived as a distance running force in the Commonwealth Games in Kingston, Jamaica. And that year, led by the great Naftali Timo and Kip Kaino, and since then this event they've dominated like no other. They've contested the steeplechase since '66 7 times, and of the 21 medals available in those 21 in those 7 competitions, they've won 15 of them. I don't think any other nation has dominated a track event as much as the Kenyans do the steeplechase. I really don't know why they're so good at it, but I think it's partly to do with the fact that the steeplechase is run at an uneven pace. You slow down, you hurdle the barriers, and then you accelerate. And the fact they live at altitude means to me that they can deal with a change of paces much better than the European-based distance runners and also some of the sea level-based African runners. But this is what we expected. We didn't expect it immediately, but we did expect it.
Well, here we go. Stephen Chirono, the early leader. His brother Abraham Chirono just behind him, and on the outside moving up is Ezekiel Kemboi, and the 3 of them just decided to get away early on. Looks as though they've settled a little bit. Let's talk about the other athletes while they're certainly within some sort of contact. We've got Stuart Stokes running for Great Britain. He wears 5.25. Ben Whitby wears 5.31. Pat Devoren 4.67. If I said Great Britain there, I apologise. England, of course. And for Wales, Christian Stevenson, who's at the back of that group there, and David Naylor, who's leading that British contingent, if you like. Christian Stevenson with great experience and has been our best steeplechaser for a long time. Of course, now Stuart Stokes is in the middle of that group there with the number 2 on the side of his shorts. Stuart Stokes now the English and British number 1. But they're a long way behind already. The Kenyans already striding out. And I guess that's a little personal battle going on there, Brendan.
Well, it certainly is. If you can't get a medal, then you've got to be 4th or 5th. You've got to be as high as you possibly can. And potentially, this is another opportunity for the British distance runners to try and win, to run personal best times. But the 3 Kenyans really are working together as a team. 2 of them are brothers, so it's not surprising that they're working as a team. And interestingly enough, Stephen and Abraham Chirono, 2 brothers in there. Their other brother is back home, and he's the former world steeplechase champion. His name is slightly different, and I really don't understand that. His name's Koskai, but he is a brother of these 2 Chironos. What a talented family for steeplechasing.
Well, you may remember Christopher Koskai. He's the one who used to run in bare feet a good few years ago. I think he won in 1995 in Gothenburg. But just a word on the pace, Brendan. 2:39 through the first kilometre, which, to be honest, is not far off world record pace. That's 8-minute pace, and 8 minutes is real world-class steeplechasing.
Well, and these are world-class steeplechasers. Stephen Chirono, the Kenyan champion, he's already run 7:58, and we now know why the British runners are so far behind, because they're running at world record pace, but they're working together. They've come here to win the 3 medals, and you would have to bet on that even before the race started. But here they are. They're running well, they're running strongly, they're sharing the pace, they're using the screen overhead to find out what's going on behind them, and then they don't have to look because they know they're well clear. 4 laps remaining in the men's steeplechase. The 3 Kenyans are clear, and the rest of the field is being led by the single Canadian, Joel Bourgeois, then Stuart Stokes of England, but the 3 Kenyans pulling away. But I think the British athletes, including Christian Stevenson in there and Donald Naylor, I think they're running really quick and compared with their own personal best times, and this is a good opportunity to do that. They're getting great support, they've got a lovely evening to do it, they're being treated to world-class distance running up ahead of them by those 3 Kenyans, and they are starting to run well.
Bourgeois of Canada, for a non-Kenyan, is certainly one of the better athletes around, the Canadian champion on 7 occasions, and was just outside the medals last time round in Kuala Lumpur. He finished 4th there. Stuart Stokes right on his shoulder. They're contesting 4th place, but already, what, 60, 70 metres behind the Kenyans here. 6.92, that's Abraham Chirono. 6.93, that's Stephen Chirono, the 2 brothers. Kemboy slotted in behind them. Then Bourgeois of Canada and Stuart Stokes, those 2 with about a 10-metre lead on Ben Whitby.
Well, Bourgeois running well, and Stuart Stokes is on his shoulder, and he's run himself into a good position. Whitby hanging on there. That's Christian Stevenson, who's more renowned as a finisher, having a struggle there. It'll be very interesting as they come up to the 2,000-metre mark to see how fast they've gone for the 2nd kilometre. Looks a little bit slower than the opening kilometre, which it probably would be 5:27. So they've slowed a little. They're just outside 8-minute pace, but I think the race is going to be extremely serious. Let's watch their technique at the barrier. We've been watching them. 2 of them go over the barrier without touching the hurdle, and that's a unique talent to Kenyan athletes. But there you could see him pointing down as his teammate runs on his shoulder, and now it's his turn to take over. These athletes are at the barrier in the middle of the home straight with 2 laps to go, and the other British athletes are just coming over the water jump. So the gap is there, and now these 3 men, they've run themselves into medal positions. We saw a great race last night in the 10,000 metres where they got 2 of the medals. We're going to see a great race here because they know they've earned a medal, they know they've earned a place on the rostrum, but which colours are going to be? And they are extremely competitive. As we watch Stuart Stokes running well into 4th place, pulling away from Bourgeois. Now Stuart Stokes, the local athlete, got his supporters and his family here roaring him on, and he's running extremely well. But here's the race for the medals between the 3 Kenyans.
Abraham Chirono perhaps doing a job for his brother Stephen Chirono in 2nd place. Kemboy on the inside, he's 3rd. Stephen Chirono was in a fantastic sprint finish with Belami in Monaco the other night, which I watched, and there was just a 100th of a second split him and the great Moroccan, and it was a sight to see them sprinting over the last 200. And you can see there the fact that Stephen Chirono hurdles that water jump may come into play on the last lap the next time round. 500 metres to go.
You wouldn't dare do that. That water jump's high and that water's deep, Steve. Running into it and hurtling over it without touching the side. Well, it can't interfere with your running, but he's quick enough and he's strong enough and he knows exactly what he's doing. 6.93, Stephen Chirono, the Kenyan champion. Now here's the bell and begins to press on into the last barrier there in the home straight. They're looking over their shoulder. There's nothing behind, but Stuart Stokes is running well. But now we're getting ready to see, I'm sure it's going to be a fascinating race. A lot of gesturing going on between those Kenyans. I don't know what that's about.
Not sure either. 300 metres to go. They're slowing so much so that Stuart Stokes is catching them, which is why the crowd are shouting, and now they're looking behind. He's got no chance of catching them, but all of a sudden the Kenyans decide to start racing again. Stephen Chirono, Kemboy, Abraham Chirono, and Stuart Stokes is still catching them. He's got too far to make up, and they will start to sprint, and there goes Stephen Chirono. He's the first to kick for home. Kemboy in 2nd place, Abraham Chirono in 3rd. The last hurdle has to be negotiated. Stephen Chirono, then comes Kemboy. It's a sprint for the line, and there goes Chirono. He's going to take this one. It's going to be close for 2nd place, and Kemboy stops his watch in 2nd place. Stephen Chirono, the Commonwealth champion. But look at this from Stuart Stokes. Great performance. Stokes, a big personal best. Great run from him. Bourgeois of Canada takes 5th place. Then it's going to be Donald Naylor of Wales coming in 6th. Then Ben Whitby, Christian Stevenson, and then it will be Pat Devoren. A Kenyan 1, 2, 3, that was no surprise. I just wonder, Brendan, whether the 1, 2, 3 had been decided beforehand amongst them, because that looked as though, I'm not entirely sure that over the last 200 they were really pushing each other, as we saw in the 10,000 last night.
Well, the one thing you can say about that, it was a team race. I'm not sure whether it's like the Grand Prix motor races, but I'm sure there was an awful lot of gesturing going on there. Look, they were looking over their shoulder, they were holding each other together. Ken Boy, the young man, he's only 20 years of age, and they were looking at Stephen Chirono. He's in the front here. He's happy in the front. He's looking up at the screen. They're looking over their shoulder, and the only reason Stuart Stokes is catching them is because they're slowing down. But here comes the last water jump. Ken Boy clears it. Chirono clears it without touching the barrier, and Chirono comes into the home straight. And now going into the last barrier. Still, the race is not hugely competitive, but the three of them have run so far clear. Stephen Chirono over the last barrier. That was the first time they started to sprint for the line. They were more concerned about just getting their 1, 2, 3. Ken Boy was interested in finishing timing himself. Well, that wasn't the most competitive finish, and there's Stuart Stokes, a very good performance in 4th place. Well done to Stuart Stokes. He'll be happy with that. A personal best in 4th place in his own stadium. But this wasn't a true run race. It was a race where they ran as a team, they put themselves in a position, and it was only on the last barrier where Stephen Chirono, the sprinter, blesses himself, thanks God for his victory. Ken Boy in 2nd place, Abraham, his brother, in 3rd place, and this is the first time we've ever seen 2 brothers. It's so easy for the Kenyans in the steeplechase that they can even just send the brothers to win it.
Well, I'm not quite sure how competitive this finish was. In slow-mo, I guess it looks as though they really are kicking in hard, but Ken Boy maybe accepting that Stephen Chirono does have the quicker finish, which I think we knew beforehand, and he was just checking behind him that Abraham wasn't going to come up on his shoulder. But let's not take anything away from them. They are a class act, the three of them, and Stephen Chirono is certainly in the world, I would say, is number 2 in the world at the moment.
Well, they got the medals. They got the 3 medals. That's 19 out of the last 24 medals available in the steeplechase gone to Kenya.
There it is then, 8:19.41, the winning time. Brilliant run by Stuart Stokes. Don't underestimate that. 8:26, a big personal best for him in 4th place. And Donald Naylor, a personal best for him, running for Wales in 6th place. And a season's best for Christian Stevenson back in 8th.
Well done, Stuart. It was always going to be 2 races out there, but you've ended up 4th with a personal best. You've got to be pleased.
Yeah, fantastic. I knew they'd go off crazy at the start, and the Canadian didn't go off too slow either. So I just thought you just got to hang in there and give it your best shot. And the last 1K, my legs are gone, but the atmosphere in here just carries you around. It's unbelievable. Absolutely unbelievable.
Well, that last lap, I mean, the Kenyans were sort of turning around and looking, and everyone was cheering you on because you were getting closer. What was that all about?
I don't know. I just think they wanted to do enough to win. But this is a championship, so I was just going as fast as I could around the last lap. I was catching, but probably they had quite a bit left anyway. They knew they had a 1, 2, 3, so eased up on the last lap. But it just inspired me to try and close them down.
This crowd knew you were a local boy. They didn't have cheer, didn't they?
The last couple of laps was absolutely fantastic. No, that's the worst time in a steeplechase, but the adrenaline was just unbelievable. I came to the bell and just felt so easy, and I was 10 seconds quicker than I've ever ran before at the bell, so fantastic, loved it. Yeah.
Well done, brilliant.
Thanks.
Back to the heptathlon, it's the last throw for Margaret Simpson of Ghana. Dropped down into 6th place overall before this event, but looking pretty good in this event. Technically pretty good and powerful as well. And, oh, it's good. It's up towards 50 metres. Well, it's only Jane Jameson of Australia who's...
For us to be a constructive opposition.